now it's time to do the edit so that we can edit here where we missed and did not put an answer. So the edit is exactly like the add. The only difference is that it will have previous information of what we are editing, right? The delete is similar, but a little bit easier. So let's start with the edit first. So to do this, we're just going to add a new in the single test controller, the same way we added this add subjective. Now, instead of using subjective, because we realized that we're going to use just the same function, so maybe this will change to add question and then edit question. So let's move that. The reason I'm not changing this yet is because I have to change the links as well, but that's not a big deal. It's a simple thing to do. So I'm just going to duplicate this function, and let me change this one to edit question. So say edit, let me just use one word, edit question. Yes, so everything else stays the same pretty much, and this one is edit, that's the tab name, edit question. Cool. And what else? What to change? Now we will leave this as it is because in case we want to add an image, but of course we don't need to add the date because yeah, that already exists. The test ID as well doesn't need to be there because we already know what the ID for this particular item is. We don't want to re-edit those. And also we want to let's see here, type, yeah, these things where it's objective or subjective are pointless at this stage because those things are already set. But we may have changed the answer. So wait a minute here, wait a minute. Okay, what I will do is, let's just hide this. Just in case we need it, we can bring it back. Or just delete it, because I have it on the top there, so I can always copy it. No big deal. Let's remove those. And then instead of insert, we will have update over here. Yes. And the return is the same. Unless, though, you want to return to the edit section again, then in a case like that, we will revert to edit question, then slash, and then that's when we get that ID. Okay, so we are redirecting to the same exact page. Otherwise, everything else remains exactly the same. Let me see if I have missed something. I don't think so. Okay, cool. Now all we need to do is go to the buttons here where we have add and edit. So this is in the test tab view include, and these are the buttons right here. So let's give them some URLs. Yes, yes. Now the URL for this one is similar to add, just a different so let me go to, where is this? Isn't this the page? Why I cannot see any links anywhere? Okay, these should be links right here. So that's what I want to copy. This same objective question, and this is subjective. So let me copy this up to here. So that, oopsie, copy. So that's the A tag. Now, this is not just any ordinary thing here, because we'll have two versions of this depending on the if statement that we have. So let me start by pasting the first one here, and then I can let's wait a second. So I need to close that A tag, closed it. Let me paste again and come down here to close that other A tag. Cool. Okay, so now we don't need this to be a drop-down item, so let me remove this. I just need the A tag as it is, and then I'll say it says single test, add subjective. So let's remove this and let's call it edit question. Yeah, because that's what we changed it to. And this one will be delete question, like this. Now here comes the difference. If it's an objective one, it will be, so this is for the subjective question, so nothing to add on the tab there. But if it's subjective, we're going to add something extra. Now, one way to do this is to put an if statement here and double these guys. So I can put these versions and the other versions for the other type of question. But that would be a little bit of a waste. So instead, what we would do is right at the end here, we're just going to put some PHP tags with an echo. And then we just want to echo, let's create a variable and we're going to call it type, like so. And let's close that, and then let's declare what type is going to be. So we already have this right here, this if statement that checks to see if this is objective. Then we have this, right? So what we want to do is right at the top here, let's create type with some PHP tags, like so. I don't know why it goes to this. Not cool at all. So here I'm going to say type is equal to, let me set this to an empty string, like this, okay? But then, if we're in here, where type is objective, we can simply lower this and then change the value of type. So type here is going to be equal to question mark, because I wanted to add a query string there. So the query string will be type is equal to, and then we're going to say objective, like this. So that even when we are editing, we know whether we're editing an objective or non-objective type, since there are only two types so far, but there will be a third one which we'll create after we add another if statement. But so far so good. So back here, and let's see, refresh the page and let's click edit. Okay, finally we are here to edit. Everything looks good. If I go to another type, this one is objective as well, but if I go to this type, I don't see the objective in the link, so which means things are working as intended. Okay, cool. Now all we need is to create the actual interface down here. So to add the interface is we are going to use the same interface here. So this one is test tab add subjective, right? So we'll have to end up changing these things because we will be using the same interface for all the questions. So let me just copy all of this and let's go to the views, right click, new file, paste in there, save this one. Now I want to use this test tab add subjective. I'm just going to change it to edit subjective. So we'll leave the subjective there for now, even though it's for all questions. So yeah, this is one more thing we have to change at the top there. Okay, for now we'll leave this as it is, but it will need to change. Because if I'm adding a subjective question here, it says add subjective question, which is correct. But if I add an objective, it's still saying subjective question. So we will have to deal with that. But for now, let me just click here. Boom, heard it. And still not in business. Well, let's see what's happening here. By going to the test tab view, nope, this is not what we are looking for, is it? I'm looking for the single test view. Yes. So there's add subjective, which leads to that. Add objective, add multiple. So we will need to get rid of some of these. But let's put this one and change this to edit. I did change it to edit question, so maybe I'll have to edit those as well. Let me just say edit question. I think that's more descriptive. So right here where we say edit subjective, I'll rename it for now to question. I think that will be better. And then let's come back here and refresh the page. So there we go. Alrighty then. So now, of course, when editing, we need to see previous information. So not to worry, we go back to the single test. And inside the edit question, we're supposed to read from that question. So what I would do is right here where we have the question model, we can use that. Can we not? Yes, we can. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to say question be equal to, wait, are we sending a question down here, by the way? No, we are not. So question is equal to quest, and then let's use the first to just get that first one. And this one is equal to, we're going to use the, what we use here instead. Let's see, what is this ID? This is the test ID itself. Yes, yes. So not to worry, we use test underscore ID, and then let's put ID over there. Wait, is this the test ID? Yes, it is the test ID, but what we want is the question ID itself. So where do we get the question ID? I wonder. We can just add it to the URL here instead of just the test. Let's go up here and do this, and let's just say question ID. I'll just say quest ID to simplify things. So copy here, and let's put that right here, quest ID. And let me come back to my table here and see what I'm talking about. So the only ID for questions is the actual row ID here. So let's use ID like this, right? Cool. So in order for this to work, we need to change the URLs as well. So back to where we are clicking to go to that place, which is inside quite a number of files here. So this is where the edit and the delete buttons are. So right after this test ID here, let's duplicate this one more time. Before we add the type, we want to add another slash here, and then this one becomes row ID like this. Okay. Now it shouldn't be row, it should be the question itself. So let's change from row to question ID like this. So we should do the same thing for the delete. Yeah, so I'm just going to copy that right after test ID, a slash, and then the question ID itself. Cool. So let's go back because we don't have that ID yet, and let me click here. Now if I hover here, I will see that there's a number there, which is the ID. So let me click on this particular one. Okay, so hopefully everything was read well. If we go back to single test now, since we are looking for an ID that has the same as the question ID, this now should have the information that we want. So what I will do is copy that, and right here just duplicate and add the question, remove the $signs that we don't need, and that should do it. So if I now go to the edit question inc right here, I should have an optional value. So let's see here for a second. Yeah, we should be able to tell it if we don't find the result. So here I'm just going to put question, so comma question there, and then this is going to be comment like this, and then same thing on the text area right here, comma question, and this is a question. And then what else? Let's go down to answer. Let's do the same thing. So answer, comma, boom, answer. Actually, this is not answer, it's correct. Underscore answer. And then finally, actually that's about it. I don't know about the image though, what we can do about that, but let me refresh. And you see, this is the information, 2 points. We didn't have an answer, so let's go back to where the one that had an answer. Let's click, and you see there's an answer there, the question, and no comment. Cool. And let's go to this one. Yeah, so things is looking good, except we're not displaying our image. So let's continue that in the next video, see what we can, how we can display our image here as well, even before we change it. I'll see you then.